Hello, you're welcome to the second edition of the topic we discussed last week on your image and its public relations and organization's new year plan. And last week I brought some guests on the show, and of course they heard their opinions, different opinions from different perspectives, from the academia, from professional aspects, and of course from the management. But this week I have other guests that have joined Dr. Akintunde on the program today. To my left here is Alhaji Ebru Atinuke, is the chairman of the Nigerian Institute of Management, Chartered. He's also the Southwest Zonal Vice Chairman of the Institute. He's also a fellow of the Institute as well. He's a deputy registrar at the Federal College of Education, Ushele in Abeokuta. It is my pleasure to welcome you to Your Image.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. It's nice to be here.
On my immediate right, I have a prayer practitioner, one-time chairman of the Ogun State chapter of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations. He's also the managing director, CEO of Western Hotels. Mr. Bimbo Alagbe, you are most welcome, sir.
My pleasure being here.
We also have in the studio, though he was here last week, and because we're still in this wealth of experience on the show today to compare and contrast with his colleagues in other areas of the profession. I also have Dr. Banji Akintunde, is a lecturer at Moshood Abela Polytechnic, Abeokuta. Is a chartered of the Institute of Personnel Management. You are welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Let me start from you, where you stopped last week. You talked about the harnessing goals of an organization. And let me ask this. Does an individual in an organization has a role to play to achieve organizational objectives?
Yes. When we say corporate goal, it means the goal of everybody, a goal that everybody has a role to play. Therefore, any attempt to formulate corporate goal must involve everybody, from the top to the least person.
Collective responsibility.
Yes, a collective responsibility. Okay. And that is why we always call it system. System where we have one corporate goal, but from that we have mission at the corporate level. Then the next level will derive its own mission from the one earlier in terms of hierarchy, down until we get to the last person. For example, we can say in institution like Mapoli, we have a goal. We want to be like this. Then the school, which is a component of Mapoli, will derive its own from the corporate one. Then the department. From department, each lecturer will derive his own goal and what he wants to achieve, so that when a lecturer achieves his goal, the department achieves its goal. When the department achieves its goal, the school achieved its goal. And when the school achieves its goals, then the corporates as a whole achieve the goal. In other words, is at the level of the individual that the action towards achieving the goal actually occurs. So that's why we call it a system. And therefore, it requires, first of all, the managing director have his own draft vision. He assembles a set of people that represent the corporation, which come together, bring up a draft, which is discussed at different levels, which is communicated, which they try to convince everybody to buy into through contribution and things like that. So having bought into it, then you're now ready. But the major problem that we have seen in practice is that we have problem of what we call key performance indicator of when you actually performed it, so that there won't be debate as to whether or not you have performed it. Secondly, system of incentive. Okay, I have done this. What is in it for me? If there is nothing in it for me, then you expect that. In many organizations, don't discriminate in terms of performance. And that is a common problem in the civil service in most places. The high performer and the low performer, there is no clear-cut measure to distinguish. And even if there are,
okay,
there is no incentive to show this difference. So individual must be involved.
Okay.
Individual must be told exactly what you need to do in terms of quality, in terms of specific performance, and then what is in need for individuals.
Okay, for individuals.
Yes.
Let me go back to Mr. Bimbo Alagbe, I beg your pardon. Last week we brought a PR expert, Dr. Yodeto Imbu, who talked about ingredients of proper planning. He mentioned 1, planning, 2, planning, and 3, planning. And what does he mean by that? If you don't plan in the previous year, then you can't have anything to review in the new year. Will you agree?
Well, absolutely. No, absolutely I will. Because when we look at how an organization has fared,
okay.
Now let's look at organization in the way of looking at whether it's a private or public liability company. It is representing the interest of the investors who have set up the organization, and they are also having expectation from that particular organization. So when you look at what he said, he was looking at the fact you must be able to plan. When you review, once we are coming into a new year like this, the first thing is for us to review what we did last year.
Okay.
And it goes, when it talks about planning, planning is about budgeting, looking at what exactly you are going to do. So you can't plan without looking at what it will take you to achieve your plan. So in reviewing the plan, you want to see how much of your budget you were able to do in the previous year. What is the percentage? What are the reasons why you were able to do above your budget? What are the reasons why you were not able to do as much as what you have budgeted? What can you do now to make sure that you don't repeat the mistakes of last year? And then what can you do to improve upon the performance of last year? I mean, if there is no return on investment for the stakeholders, you know, of the and the investors in the business, definitely there's no reason for people remaining on their jobs. So if he says planning, that's the first thing, I agree with him. Okay. Second one is planning, I agree with him. Okay. Third one is planning, I agree with him. I will go further by saying the 5th and the 6th will also be planning. And then the next one I'm going to say is that after planning, what do you do to implement
implementation stage
of what you have just planned?
So before I go to Alhaji Atinuke, we are talking, it seems like we are looking at the corporate world. Does it affect business ventures?
Yes,
grassroots?
Yes, it does. It does. Because when you look at it, even in the corporate world, if you look at the people who are doing their small businesses, they have a way of contributing back into the GDP of the nation. So in doing that, they must also be able to look at how they plan. I mean, if you go to buy a particular thing, where do you source from, so that you can be able to have it cheap, and so what you are going to resell will not be costlier than what's. That's the reason why some people will go into the internet to go and get whatever thing they are going to do, and then after doing it, they want to know how much of value they are going to add, so that it can bring better yield on the better yield on the item for them. So planning must definitely go into it. How much do you put into this? Once you put this much into it, how much are you expecting in return, from it? It must be at a very good cost, and must also be at a cost that is affordable, for the people, for your target. You may be producing for the mass, you may also be producing for the elite, but it still goes back to that. For you to be able to have your goal, you must put adequate planning into place.
You're watching Your Image on the station, and the topic is public relations and the organization's New Year's plan. You can join us on social media, Pr-Primus on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, and also on Twitter. Let me go back to Alhaji Atinuke now as a management person. What are the ingredients of management that will aid, or that can adequately aid proper planning, especially in the new year like this?
Well, let me say that when we are talking about planning, just like it has been mentioned by my colleagues who have spoken earlier, planning is actually the fulcrum of any organization, be it private or public, because it is at that particular stage that it will be laid to bed what are the programs, what are the expectations, and what are the overall focus that the organization is planning to achieve at the end of the day. And in doing this, it will involve the 3 M's, that is the man, the material, and the machine. Because the machine cannot operate itself. Through proper planning that has been put in place by an organization, that is where individuals that are suitable for a specific role will be placed. Because at the end of the day, the motive is to achieve the organizational goal and objective. And in doing that, emphasis has to be placed on structured and well-arranged planning. Planning cannot just happen by itself. As a manager, this is a concept that we hold very prominent in our managerial objective, because when you are talking of planning, you have to have at the back of your mind the fact that the survival of the organization itself depends on planning. And it's not something that you can just come up overnight and say this is how it will go. For instance, there is a management concept known as MBO, management by objective. This is a concept where at the beginning of any year in the organization, the manager will call all the stakeholders to a meeting, engage them, involve them, task them, let them know their specific areas of assignment, so that at the end of the day, they will have this conceptualization that this particular organization goal will also be taken as an individual challenge.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, they will also want to ensure that they rise up to that challenge to achieve that goal. Because at the end of it too, there are also going to be a sort of reward based on, just like Doctor said the other time, based on your performances. It's not going to be generalized. So we are talking of your achievements, which will now be rewarded based on what you have put in. That is what will determine the extent to which you are also going to be recognized by way of reward. It may not be monetary. It could be through commendation. It could be elevation. It's not all the time that it has to be monetary incentive.
And it could even come in form of a letter of recommendation.
That is it.
Yeah.
We should go a long way in your career to determine to what extent you are going to ensure that you achieve. And let me also say that when we are talking of public relations concerning itself with the yearly organization plans, I want us to know that as public relations has shifted from the emphasis on just mere technical role of the public relations practitioner by way of communicating, you are expected to also be involved in strategic communication role as a manager. And when we are talking of the public relations professional also coming up with the activities of a manager, you will be expected to be educated in the tools of organizational management. That is, you are to be fully equipped on what it entails before you can now say you want to put in your best as a public relations practitioner, utilizing the opportunity of a manager.
Thank you very much. Let me go back to Dr. Banji Akituni. You mentioned personnel the other time, and we are trying to, every organization wants to achieve better in the new year.
Yeah.
Reorganization. When you redeploy, you know, when you review your previous year's performance and you think that maybe some people are not even doing well, and you're not putting the round peg in the round hole, don't you think this can affect the organization as well? Okay, somebody is not even a professional, okay, because they didn't achieve that and you reorganized. Don't you think that we achieve the new year's organizational plan?
Of course, if you don't have the right person in the right place, doing the right thing, you can't achieve anything. It's clear. But the problem is the attitude to the management of personnel. Many don't see it as a technical professional practice. That's the reason why attitude to training is more of, like we said sometimes, seen as cost rather than an investment to increase ability to produce and solve problems. One. Two, placement. When you don't look at who is best fitted for this particular goal, when you get there, it won't be his fault totally, because he's assigned the job for which he's not best prepared. Then remuneration, a performance appraiser. What do you appraise? Do you appraise loyalty? Do you appraise qualification? Or you appraise objective performance? Three is that the PR itself, like I said sometimes, is known more to be the PA to the chief executive, trying to paint the image, whereas you should have moved away from that.
Move away from errand boy
it's
mentality.
Not. It's a PR person, I believe, should be close to points of performance and result that touches the stakeholders, the customers, so that what they are doing, you partner with them, because it's not just what the person does and the way they are being perceived by the public may be different. What is the public expecting? When you partner with the operative department, you can help them package it in a way that when you take it to the public, they appreciate it, that this organization is doing something for us. You should be part of that system right from the scratch. Help them to focus area they should focus, area of relevance and performance impact to the public. And they must also know that the workers are also part of the public. If they are not committed, they're not going to be creative, they're not going to be bringing ideas. And all this is just personnel management, because it depends on what you measure. If you are measuring mistakes, you don't want mistakes, nobody will be creative. Yeah. Say, okay, I don't want people to catch me. So that's why personnel management is critical. Unfortunately, people believe that everybody is a personnel manager, whereas everybody is not. The management of the process is a professional work. The conduct of the activity is everybody, but the management, just like in accounting, everybody has to account for something, but not everybody is an accountant. But when you now place anybody to be in charge of managing the personnel management process, you can see that there won't be good management. They now use common sense intelligence rather than. That's the major problem we are having today. It's not because we don't have technical specialty. It's because we are mismanaging the personnel.
Mismanagement of personnel.
So people are not able to do what they are supposed to do. They are not motivated properly, and therefore, so many things goes wrong.
Okay, thank God you mentioned public relations there, and you talk about planning, and you also talk about management. That PR person should be part of management. Even Dr. Odeto Yimbu mentioned it last year, that PR is part of management.
It's a management function.
And a PR person should even part of the management of the organization. We talk about it. How does a PR person of an organization help the organization do proper planning, even when they are trying to resist? You know, every organization, everybody in an organization believes a PR person. They say PR, do PR for them. It's an aberration. The language is not too good for the profession. So how does a PR person in an organization assist in making proper planning for the organization in order to achieve the corporate goal?
Well, there are two. Let me start by saying, underscoring the fact that, number one, the most important resource in any organization is the human resource. When you're looking at the 3M, which was mentioned by Alhaji Ebuatinike, that's the human resource. So when you look at one of such is the public relations, practitioner in any organization. The first thing that a PR person does is to study the organizational goal. And having studied the goal, that is the vision of the organization. How do we reach that goal? Then the PR person has a major role in saying this is how we get to this, and looks at the mission. That's a means of reaching and achieving that. So in an organization, for example, you have a target. He was saying that maybe if people are looking at it that, okay, our performance for last year, this was how we were able to do. Then what is the target for this year?
Where are we going?
So where are we going? So right from day one, this week like this, that's where you have strategic meetings, management retreats, and things like that. And a public relations person will come up to say, this is our goal. The profession teaches us to analyze trends, analyze it, be able to predict the future. So that is where you now come back and say, the evaluation will come in now. If, for example, in my organization, for example, there is every quarter assessment of the performance of your management. And then who is supposed to achieve what? And then you can bring that and say, okay, before we get to the end of the year, quarter one, how much have we done in terms of reaching this number of people? How much people have been able to appreciate what we are doing in this? What are we expecting to come from the particular sector? What have we been able to make? And that is also further breakable into, monthly, weekly, and then you can look at the plans of doing it. So if you did it in, for example, if you are making X amount, maybe 30 million or whatever, that is 1 million naira per month. So at the end, if today is 9th, today you should have made 9 million. So if you are not making your 9 million, what was the reason why you didn't do that? So a PR person will be able to tell us that, okay, this is, if we continue this way, and we have only made 500,000 naira on the 9th, that means that by the 18th, you will only make only 1 million. And you will be running, behind what is your target. So every organization has a target, and the role of the PR is to interpret the role of each component to them as to how to do that. And they will not be able to advise the management, the board, the executive, the leadership team as to why we will not be able to achieve this if we continue this way. So the PR person is a part of, is a management function, is a part of the management, and should be able to tell us if we are doing well, if we will end well or not.
If they will end well or not. Yes, you wanted to say.
Well, yes, actually, to corroborate what my professional in the public relations sector has said, that a PR person is expected to also be at the forefront when we are talking of management functions. Yes, that is actually the way it should be, because in a way, there is something that is known as the stakeholder management approach.
Yeah.
It is in this particular concept that a PR person is being recognized in an organization where he or she is expected to deal with the external and internal publics. And these are people who can constrain or enhance the image of the organization. And that is why managers usually make use of what is known as the SWOT analysis. The strength, look at the strengths, look at the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the strengths available in a particular organization through the adequate utilization of the resources inherent in a public relations. With that, definitely the organization should be able to attain and achieve its goal for a given year.
Okay, so far so good. Dr. Banji Akintunde, what is your takeaway when organizations are looking at you, listening to you right now, and for the new year, your final advice for them?
One is the PR person should be a person who should be giving feedbacks to the management and the worker, so that they know the population impact of every activity that they engage in. And two, they should engage in training not just the chief executive, but other departmental managers. And three, like has been said, they have to be involved at a top level. Top level, yes, there are challenges of maybe there are some places where they do not realize that, but you have to prove that you are relevant through research.
Okay.
Research that can help you to analyze, predict, that when they see that what you say makes sense, then they will learn to respect you.
Okay. And finally, from the PR guru in the house, your takeaway.
Well, let me just add that the Southern American Association of Public Relations actually reversed what he mentioned
Okay.
on the SWOT. Instead of doing the SWOT now, they do the TOES,
Okay.
which is they start with the threats. What will affect us in any way?
Let's
Look at it from the threat. What is our threat?
Okay.
And then they look at what is our weakness that will make somebody to come and threaten us, because it's coming from an advantage, the point of our weakness. So, and then we look at what are the other opportunities and what is our strength. So if you approach it from your strength first, you first of all use that. And once you expend your strength, there's nothing for you to fall back. You are first of all considering your threats. You are now looking at your weaknesses before you now concentrate on your opportunities. I think if organizations will look at it from that angle, achieving the plans and the targets for the year shouldn't be a big deal.
Thank you very much. My guests on this week's edition have been Dr. Banji Akitude, a lecturer at Moshood Abela Polytechnic. I want to say a very big thank you for being part of this program. Also, Mr. Bimbo Alagbe, one-time chairman of NIPR in Ogun State and MDCEO Western Hotels. Thank you very much, sir.
My pleasure being here.
And of course, not leaving out Alhaji Ebu Atinuke, the chairman of NIM in Ogun State, and of course, the Southwest Zonal Vice Chairman of the Institute. Is also a fellow of the Institute and the Deputy Registrar at Federal College of Education, Oshele Abeokuta. It is my pleasure, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
And until we meet next week, God willing, on another interesting edition of Your Image, don't forget that proper planning prevents poor performance. See you next week.